Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Ashened deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because we just got the second wave of support for this deck and it's absolutely crazy to be able to play now. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name scratched for every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Vados. Vados is definitely a 3-of in the build and is an insane boss monster for the deck, with the ability that during the main phase, if this card's in your hand, quick effects, you can target one card in the field spell zone and special summon this card to your opponent's side of the field. And if you do, destroy that card. Then, if you can add to your hand or set an Ashened continuous trap from your deck. And if this card is sent from your opponent's field to the graveyard, you can destroy all monsters on the field, which is a really awesome ability just to instantly board wipe all the monsters. We then play 3 copies of Priestess of the Ashen City. This card is basically the Stratos of the deck and definitely a 3-of in the build, and that if you control a copy of Obsidian in your field spell zone, you can special summon this card from your hand, which all of your Ashen monsters actually share that common effect. But this card has a really awesome ability. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add an Ashened card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. We then play a single copy of King of the Ashen City. I feel like all you need is 1 copy of this card now, but this card is really awesome because during your main phase, you can special summon 1 Ashen monster from your hand, except another copy of this card, or if your opponent controls a monster with 2800 or more attack, you can special summon it from your deck instead, meaning if your opponent has Vados, you can actually special summon it from your deck. We then play a single copy of Hero of the Ashen City. This card is a really good boss monster in the deck, but again, I just feel like you need a single copy of this card. This card has an awesome ability that during the main phase, quick effect, you can target a pyro monster on the field and destroy it. Then, if you destroyed a copy of Vados, by this effect, you can place a copy of Obsidian from your deck face up in your field spell zone, which is a really cool ability just to instantly put the field spell back on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Spearhead. Spearhead is just a good 1-of as well in this deck, and it's a really awesome card for this build. And it also shares the ability if you have Obsidian in your field spell zone, you can actually special summon this card from your hand. And this card has the ability, if your opponent controls a monster with 2800 or more attack, meaning Vados, you can tribute this card and target 1 card your opponent controls and return it back to the hand, letting you bounce a card off the field. We can play a single copy of Shaman. Shaman's really good as a 1-of in the build, but you again only need a single copy of this card, just like your other Ashen monsters. But this card is a really cool ability that this card has the effect that you can actually target 3 of your pyro monsters that are banished and are in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and if you shuffled an Ashen monster, you can add a copy of Obsidian from your deck to your hand. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is definitely a 3-of build just to stop the opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is also really good at stopping your opponent's monster effects. It's just a fantastic hand trap. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Terraforming. This deck is all about field spells, so this card is really good at searching our field spells from our deck to our hand. We then play a single copy of Set Rotation. Set Rotation is definitely a 1-of in the build, because this card gives our opponent a field spell and we get a field spell, which is absolutely amazing about this card. We then play a single copy of Chicken Game. Chicken Game is really cool that this card is back off the ban list, but it's absolutely amazing to play in this deck as a 1-of, with the ability that the player with the lowest life points takes no damage. Also, once per turn during the main phase, the turn player can pay 1000 life points and then activate one of these 3 effects. That you draw a card, destroy this card, or your opponent gains 1000 life points. And neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, which basically makes this card a speed spell 4, which is really cool. We can also recycle this card, which is absolutely amazing. We then play a single copy of Multi-Universe. Multi-Universe is a new card that we just got out of Legacy of Destruction, and is a really good support card for this deck, with the ability to activate only if you do not control a face-up card in your field spell zone. Let you target a field spell that's banned banished or in either player's graveyard and destroy this card, and if you do, place that targeted card face up in the field spell zone. And you can only use effect this card once per turn, and if a card in the field spell zone would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from the grave instead, which is a really cool ability. I love this card as a 1-of in the build, as it gives us so many options in the deck, but it's a really awesome card. We then play 3 copies of Obsidian. Obsidian is definitely a 3-of in the deck, and the entire deck basically revolves around this and Vados, and this card has the ability to face up special summon monsters that your opponent controls become pyro during your turn only, and you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn. That during your end phase, you can actually target an Obsidian of the Ashen City in your graveyard and place it in the bottom of the deck, then draw a card, which is great to be able to recycle other copies of this card. And if this card in the field zone is destroyed or banished, you can special summon an Ashen monster from the deck, which is a really awesome ability. But this card is definitely a 3-of in the deck because you really want to be able to get to this card. Plus, by turning your opponent's monsters into pyro, it works really well with super polymerization to step into Embers of the Ashened, which is such a powerful card, or our copy of Vados, the Dragon of Endless Darkness. We then play 3 copies of Extinguishing the Ashened. This card is really good as a 3-of as well, and it's one of the best new support cards we actually got, because this card lets us send a dark pyro monster from our deck to the graveyard, then you can add 1 level 5 or higher pyro monster from your graveyard to your hand. And for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the extract except pyro monsters, which is not that big of a deal for this deck to be able to pull off. You can also banish this card from the graveyard to be able to fusion summon a pyro fusion monster from your extract using monsters from your hand or field as material, which is a really cool effect. We then play 3 copies of Bonfire. Bonfire is the Rhoda for the deck, and you absolutely can change this card out if you must for a budget option. You can play the Aratama Sakitama package in this deck just to give you more cards that you can normal summon out to your side of the field to go in for your copy of Banshee in the extract, which is a really cool card to be able to go into that basically is an XZ version of Bonfire, so you can basically play 2 of each of them. And if you guys would like more details about that budget option, you can check out the previous deck profile on this deck to be able to see exactly what that spirit package does for this build. But basically what it does for this deck is you normal summon out a copy of Aratama, search out Sakitama, reveal Sakitama, normal summon out Sakitama, make a copy of Banshee, detach a material, and then you get to search a pyro monster from your deck to your hand, which is really cool to be able to instantly get the exact card that you need. So you can change out this card because I know it's very expensive to be able to play in this build. We then play 3 copies of Awakening of Vados. Vados is really cool to be able to play this card as a 3-of, as this card lets you place a copy of Obsidian from your deck face up in either field zone. Then, if your opponent controls a card in their field spell zone, you can add a level 5 or higher Dark Pyro monster from your deck to your hand, meaning a copy of Vados. And for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the deck or the extract except Pyro monsters. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is definitely a 3-of in the build, because with your copy of Obsidian turning everything into a pyro during your turn that your opponent controls, you can easily go in for your fusion monsters, and this card is really good in the deck just to break your opponent's board. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Ashened for Eternity. Ashened for Eternity is definitely a 1-of in the build and has the ability that when this card is activated, you get to add a copy of Vados or an Ashened monster from your graveyard to your hand. You can also target 1 face-up monster that your opponent controls that you own and take control of that monster, which is a really cool effect that then you can make all face-up monsters that your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to that monster's original attack, and this attack change lasts until the end of this turn, which is an awesome ability that you basically just to take back your copy of Vados, which is really cool. Plus your copy of Vados can actually place this card on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Ashened to Endlessness. This card is so cool as a 1-of. I absolutely love the artwork, and you can get to this card with your copy of Vados, which is really nice. That's why I play these cards at 1 each in the deck, but this card is really cool because during the main phase, you can actually fusion summon a Pyro Fusion fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either player's field as material, including a copy of Vados. And if you do, it gains 500 attack for each material used to summon it out to your side of the field, basically making this card a trap version of Super Polymerization. This card also has a really cool ability that you can actually banish this card and a Dark Pyro monster from your graveyard, and all monsters that your opponent currently controls become Pyro until the end of this turn, and you can only use each effect of this card once per turn, but it makes Super Poly absolutely insane in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is just a really good hand trap overall to go with our other hand traps in this build, to basically just use this card to be able to stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 2 copies of our new Vados Fusion. Vados, the Dragon of Endless Darkness, which is probably one of my new favorite names of any card in the entire game. This card has the ability to take a copy of Vados plus 2 level 9 or lower Pyro monsters to make this card. It cannot be destroyed by card effects, and also your opponent cannot target it with monster effects. And if this card is Fusion Summon, you destroy all spells and traps that your opponent controls. And when your opponent activates a card or effect on the field, quick effect, you can send one face-up Ashened card that you control to the graveyard and destroy that card, which is a really awesome effect. This card is absolutely insane, and I love it as a boss monster for the deck. Its artwork is insane. It's probably one of my favorite cards in the entire game now. We then play 2 copies of Embers of the Ashened. This card is actually a super poly target and is so cool because it just requires any 2 Pyro monsters to make this card. You're probably going to see a lot of play with this card because it is a super poly target, but if this card is Fusion Summon, you can actually target a field spell in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's Pyro monster, destroy that opponent's monster. And if this if it is your turn, this card can make a 2nd attack in a row, which is such a cool ability. This card can attack multiple times, and it's a really awesome boss monster to make. We then play for other super poly targets. We're playing a single copy of Dracostapelia, which is a walking negate, 1 copy of Garua, and a single copy of Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon is really good in the deck as a 1-of because it's just really easy to use as a super poly target in the deck. We then play a single copy of Infernal Flame Banshee. This is a card I was talking about that you could use for your spirit package. If you decide to play that over Bonfire, you can change out like the effect failures and bonfires for 3 of each of Sakitama and Aratama, and then just make this card, because it has the ability you can detach a material in this card to take a Pyro monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send to the grave, which is basically Rhoda for Pyro monsters. So you do have a play that you can make instead of Bonfire, because Bonfire is crazy expensive, so it's another option for you guys. We then play a single copy of Baguska. Baguska is really good in the deck as a 1-of, because this card is really good to be able to summon out to your side of the field just to slow down the game. 1 copy of your Typhon. Typhon's just easy to make in just about any deck. 1 copy of Double A Zeus, which is just basically a board wipe on the field. It's a good option that you can make. 1 copy of Access Code. Access Code's absolutely massive and pretty easy to summon. We then play a single copy of Selene, because we are playing Spellcasters in the deck, which is just a really good option to be able to make to help us summon a copy of our Access Code, because you can use Effect Veiler as an option to be able to step into your copy of Access Code. Play a single copy of the Dark Charmer, since we are playing so many dark monsters in the deck, because everything is dark and pyro, so it's very easy to make this card on your side of the field. And then finally play a single copy of SP Little Knight, which can be changed out for a copy of like an IP or any other super poly target that you want, or even a Nightmare Unicorn is another option for you guys if you want to. If you're going a more budget route, you could change out the copy of Selene for Nightmare Unicorn and a copy of SP for IP, which is another option for you guys, especially if you go the Spirit Package engine for the deck. You can change these 2 cards out for IP and Unicorn, which is other option for you guys. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. I absolutely love Ashened. It's really fun. I absolutely love the new wave of support, because you get a really cool 2, actually, new cool fusion monsters, which is absolutely insane. Vados is such a cool boss monster, and it's just a really fun deck. So that's going to do it with this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.